The name California, translated from Spanish, means glowing furnace. No wonder the Death Valley National Park, the hottest and driest national park in the U.S., is located in California. Being a part of the Mojave Desert, Death Valley is an intermountain basin in the area of the Mojave Desert and the Great Basin in the western United States, east of the Sierra Nevada mountain range. This burning hot island is situated at 282 feet below sea level. In summer, the air temperature in the area never drops below 105 degrees Fahrenheit, and it also holds the record for the highest reliably recorded air temperature in the world. Once, in 1913, the highest temperature was reached at 134 degrees. The sand in the desert is heated from 185 even up to 200 degrees. Flies here do not fly, but crawl in order to not singe their wings, and lizards are often seen rolling over on their backs to cool their burnt feet. For this reason, I've planned this amazing journey along this uneasy route for winter, and decided to visit Death Valley in February when the temperatures are more favorable for tourists. Most tourists visit this part of our planet between the end of November and early March. In the valley, the day temperature can be around 68 degrees and at night can drop down to 32. Also in 1913, the lowest temperature of 9 degrees below zero was recorded in the valley. If you're lucky, you might witness a unique phenomenon when Death Valley is transformed and comes to life with thousands of plants covering the Intermountain Basin, rewarding its visitors. But it doesn't happen every year. In autumn of 2015, the valley was battered by severe and abundant rains that resulted in the super bloom of 2016, when the valley was covered by millions of wildflowers. These heavy rainfalls have caused the closure of some popular routes and roads. Death Valley is one of the most mysterious places on our planet. Its name stirs the imagination and causes conflicting emotions. Death Valley's name is associated with the distant year of 1849, when a group of gold diggers were lost in the desert, wandering and suffering from hunger and thirst for several months. Eventually, the group lost one person. The legend says that when they found their way out and left the valley, one of the 49ers, looking down from the mountain, exclaimed, "Goodbye, Death Valley." But it should be said, before the arrival of those explorers, the desert was inhabited for thousands of years by the Indian tribe Timbisha, and several families of this tribe still live in the valley. Death Valley National Park is enormous, covering 3.4 million acres. It's very versatile. Its diversity and aggressive conditions attract hundreds of thousands of tourists every year. Death Valley is the driest and hottest place in North America. Many travelers head here trying to prove to themselves and others that they're able to survive in these harsh conditions. As for me, I found another reason: to experience the fantastic alien landscapes and extraordinary manifestations of nature. I begin to understand the miracle of the creation of our planet, the complexity of its devices, and the diversity of its variability, the delicate balance between life and death, the wisdom of our Creator. And I have just one wish: to discover this fascinating place and share the beauty of nature with you. Death Valley is divided into 4 major regions, one of them the Furnace Creek area. I was led into this area by a very scenic route, which is rightly called Artists Drive, a 9-mile road that travels from south to north, ascending above the salt flat of Badwater and opening impressive, fabulous, and unforgettable views. This road carves through the high desert mountains of Death Valley National Park. As you drive up to the mountains, you'll see and feel how the road goes up and down into the gorges created by mighty flash floods. The numerous floods created colorful layers step by step. Artists Drive gives visitors a great opportunity to see and enjoy colorful mountains that are composed of picturesque soil colored by different metals and minerals. Death Valley is surrounded by mountains. This is a seismically active region, the surface of which moves along the fault lines. Huge blocks of the Earth's surface are moving during the underground earthquake's progression. Mountains become higher, and the valley goes lower and lower in relation to sea level. On the other hand, constant erosion takes place, causing destruction of the mountains as a result of exposure to natural forces. Rinsed off small and large rocks from the surface of the mountains, minerals, sand, clay, and salt fill the valley. Currently, the level of these ancient layers is 9,022 feet. However, the intensity of geological processes is much greater than the force of erosion. So, for the next million years, the trend of mountain growing and lowering of the valley will continue. The most spectacular location and the must-visit place along Artists Drive is the Artists Palette. To get here, turn off the drive and park at the Artists Palette parking lot. Take the steps down, cross a narrow wash, and continue going towards the multicolored slope. Yellow, red, blue, purple, green. This place is a real painter's palette. These rainbow colors were created as the result of metal oxidation. Red and pink were created as a result of iron-rich hematite oxidation. Golden and yellow color is the result of iron oxidation. Decomposing volcanic ash deposits add green to the palette. And the purple color is from manganese. These multicolored aprons are the best evidence of an explosive volcanic time, which changed the appearance of Death Valley National Park forever. enjoy photography, keep in mind that artists' palette is especially beautiful in late afternoon when the setting sun brightens up the colors. Zabriskie Point, with its quaint shapes, colors, and shades, can be truly called the visiting card of Death Valley and its geological miracle. This scenic overlook gives you a great view of a large area of badlands, rock formations that have been severely eroded over millions of years. Around 9 million years ago, there was a lake that covered most of Death Valley's territory, including the lands near Zabriskie Point. During the existence of the lake, different sediments such as gravels from the mountain, saline mud, and ashfall from an active volcano at the time collected at the bottom of this ancient lake. The climate changed, became more arid, and caused the ancient lake to dry up. A beautiful playa was created as a result. At the same time, the uplift of the Black Mountains and sinking and widening of the Death Valley, as well as the erosion processes, changed the landscape and created the Badlands we admire today. Tourists and hikers have their hearts set on this viewpoint because of the beautiful and harmonious views of the landscape, including yellow and brown, dunes with smooth contours. Images from this viewpoint will undoubtedly take one of the main places in the traveler's albums. After visiting the viewpoint, you can take a walk along the trail that shows the beauty of the rocks with their unusual shapes. Take a break and cool down in their shadows, and prepare yourself to climb the rolling hills with stunning panoramic views. The surrounding landscape will help the traveler feel as if they're an astronaut discovering an unknown lifeless planet. With the onset of the evening, the desert has pleased me not only with a refreshing coolness, but also with a magnificent panorama of the distant mountains and the setting sun that illuminates the whole sky with attractive colors. Even the mountains, lit from a different angle, have changed palette and begin to play with new colors. A beautiful view at the end of a difficult hot day in Death Valley. It's no wonder that on the roadside of the Badwater Road I've found a huge number of parked cars. It's a very popular destination because it leads to the most popular attractions, including Artist's Palette and Devil's Golf Course. Badwater Road is a scenic drive to Badwater Basin, the lowest point in North America. If you're not sure where to go or what places to visit in Death Valley, we recommend following this road for a nice collection of destinations in Death Valley National Park. As I've mentioned before, sometime after the Ice Age, there was a huge freshwater lake in Death Valley. Local hot and dry climate contributed to the inevitable evaporation of water. The annual short but very intense rains washed minerals from the surface of the mountains into the valley. Once the lake water evaporated, salt remained at the bottom, reaching the highest concentration at the lowest point in Badwater Basin. Rainwater in this basin remains longer, forming temporary small lakes. When the early settlers were surprised that their dehydrated mules refused to drink water from these lakes, they made a mark, "Bad Water," on the map. In fact, in those rare cases when there is water in the basin, it's not poisonous, but really salty. We were very fortunate to experience the super bloom. Badwater Road was full of beautiful wildflowers. Many flowers grow alongside the road because of the water that is not collected on the road but on its sides. Usually, the best month for viewing wildflowers are from March through May. The Devil's Golf Course is a fabulously beautiful and large salt pan on the floor of Death Valley National Park. It's located in the Mojave Desert. This salt pan is a huge bed made up of a dried-up Lake Manly that covered the territory of the valley. The water evaporated some 2,000 years ago and left a 1,000-foot layer of salt and minerals that, due to different weather conditions, were transformed into the salt pan with fabulous and mysterious shapes. This salt pan reminds me of a field plowed by a farmer, turned inside out, exposing piles of ground covered with salt crystals of incredible beauty, but that are very dangerous at the same time. These salt spikes are very sharp and can easily cut your skin or clothes. After several minutes on the field, I fully understood and agree with the legend of the name's origin of the place. This territory got its name after a written line in the National Service Guidebook that stated, "Only the devil could play golf on this surface." As I mentioned earlier, the salt pan at Badwater from time to time flood, but the field of the Devil's Golf Course remains several feet above the flood level. That's why the shapes of salty formations are so sharp and detailed. These salt formations grow very slowly. Scientists say about an inch every 35 years. Rain and wind also influence pointy salt spikes, creating their own shape. I walk on an enormous ice-covered reservoir. The ice crunches under my feet, but instead of cold, bracing air, I feel hot and dry wind blowing into my face. Looking in this snow-white space, it's easy to imagine such a fairy tale. The truth is, this fairy tale is real. Actually, this place is a reservoir, but it's a reservoir leaving salt tracks. Badwater Basin is an endorheic basin known as the lowest point in North America. Its elevation is 282 feet below sea level. The name is given to the area thanks to the spring-fed pool of bad water. The salt makes this water undrinkable. Actually, this water is 4 times saltier than the water in the ocean. Although the water in the pool is salt, there is life here. Animals and plants including pickleweed, aquatic insects, saltwort, and the badwater snails. This pool next to the road is not the lowest point. This point is located a few miles to the west, but it's constantly changing the location. However, you are not allowed to walk on these salt deposits because very often there is only a thin crust. For this reason, the decision was made to mark the lowest point near the pool. Death Valley is known for its harsh climate. Despite high temperatures, the level of humidity is considerably higher than the normal level. This resulted in the formation of the unusual lake. Its salty evaporations created fabulous landscape, covering the ground with a beautiful white salt crust. This landscape attracts lots of tourists and photographers who want to test themselves and explore the beauty of this place. Golden Canyon greeted me with real gold colors. I traveled through the narrow gorges, the sharp peaks towering into the sky as if leaning over me. Their tops were brightly illuminated by the low sun, making the gold colors shine brightly. I walked on ground where water streams ran just a few years ago, leaving a distinctive mark. This nature trail led me to the narrow tunnels of the canyon, repeating the stream's direction. From the very beginning of the trail, I found myself in the narrowest part of the canyon, and very soon found remnants of the road that was built back in 1929. This was a paved road that led to the end of the canyon, but in 1976, a 5-day February storm brought 2.37 inches of rain, and these floods washed out the paved road. On the walls of the canyon, you can observe the results of these numerous floods. This route is truly one of the most popular in the park, with dramatic and unearthly views of pristine nature. It's ideal for those who wish to enjoy the beauty and the attractions of the park and explore its extraordinary landscape. These reddish cliffs mean that I'm on the Natural Bridge Canyon Trail. Passing along these steep vertical walls, I came up to the bridge created by nature, the arch connecting the two walls of the canyon. Natural Bridge Canyon Trail is an ancient flood channel, and it's amazing to experience this and see evidence of those times. It's simply amazing to see what huge power water has in cooperating with time, creating such spectacular natural structures. Death Valley National Park is a hiking area with no specifically created trails. That's why I continued exploring this geological path on my own. A dry waterfall that pours into the canyon and other geological mysteries in the canyon walls make me reflect about the past, the present, and the future of our planet. Mule Team Canyon Road is a one-way dirt road that runs along the main highway of Death Valley. If you want to explore the canyons but do not want to come out of your car into the hot air, this road would be an excellent choice. The road through the canyon was named after the 20 mules that were used during construction of the first road. One of the versions of the story says that all the minerals mined in the region were transported on heavy wagons drawn by 18 mules and 2 horses, but for simplicity, all of them were called mules. In order to get a bird's eye view of Death Valley, it's not necessary to fly. After all, this can be done by car, but driving to the top of the Black Mountains, where a great observation deck that's called Dante's View is situated. If you think of Death Valley as the scenery for Dante's The Divine Comedy, this viewpoint would have been the best place to go for the theater. Perhaps back in 1926, this idea came to a businessman from the Pacific Coast Borax Company, which gave the name to the viewpoint. It was opened back in 1920 when mining stopped, and the company tried to transform Death Valley into a tourist destination, searching for the most spectacular panoramic views. They succeeded, and Dante's View is considered the most photogenic place around this national park. It's interesting to know that the temperature at Dante's View in the summer is in the 90s, but beneath it at Badwaters, it'll be 20 to 25 degrees hotter. Gorgeous views of the salt dunes, as well as part of the Panamint Range and the highest summit, Telescope Peak, won't leave anyone indifferent. Not only are views great here, but everything that surrounds you is beautiful and so full of history. Multicolored and eroded rocks can tell you more than any historian. When I finished my journey around Furnace Creek area, I headed north to Stovepipe Wells area, and along the way I was constantly accompanied by yellow flowers that were nicely harmonizing with the blue sky. In my opinion, one of the most attractive places in Death Valley is the Great Mesquite Flat Sand Dunes. It is amazing how diverse and rich in unusual landscapes the Death Valley is, from the multicolored canyons and endless salt pans to sandy seas with frozen sand waves. However, these dunes are not frozen and static. They were actually formed over thousands of years ago, when the sand brought by the wind reached the mountains and couldn't go any further. It settled at the foot of the mountains. Mesquite Flat Sand Dunes are surrounded by the mountains from all sides: Tucky Mountain, Grapevine Range, and Funeral Mountains. Mesquite trees and creosote bush create perfect conditions for wildlife. The mesquite trees grow here even before the sand dunes, and the creosote bush actually thrive in these conditions. This unusual habitat is home to kit fox, burrowing owls, lizards, rodents, and sidewinder rattlesnakes. Beware. best time to visit the dunes is at sunrise and sunset. The incredible color and light amazed me. If you come early in the morning, you might see animal tracks and enjoy fresh and unspoiled textures of the dunes. As the evening heat subsides, you can sit comfortably at the top of one of the dunes and enjoy the view of the surrounding Tucki Mountains, Grapevine Range, and the Funeral Mountains, and take a lot of great photos and enjoy the peace that nature gives us. And of course, the highlight of this unforgettable day in the desert is a delightful sunset that painted the sky over my head with indescribable colors. In the lifeless at first glance desert, I found a wonderful creek. This place is called Salt Creek Interpretive Trail and is covered with wood boards. It's not even a hiking trail, it's a pleasant walk trail along the fragile ecosystem. Lots of signs remind visitors to stay on the trail and respect nature. Salt Creek allowed me to look at the little miracle of nature, the small pupfish. Over the years, the pupfish evolved into different species. Several species disappeared, and some are considered to be on the edge of extinction. This small fish can be found nowhere outside the park. Dr. Carl Hubbs, the father of Western ichthyology, once noted that these fish play together like puppies, and they can only be found on the territory of the Death Valley National Park. The pupfish is very small, silvery color with dark bands. Its average length, 1.5 inches. Pupfish can survive in the water with a temperature of 113 degrees. They can also live in the water that is twice as salty as the ocean. When the water evaporates, the pupfish becomes dormant and burrows itself in the mud at the bottom of the salty creeks. With a lifespan of a year or less, these tiny fish are in a hurry to feed and breed. Fantastic and impressive Mosaic Canyon Trail attracts tourists like a magnet. These extraordinary layered canyon walls caught my attention and lured me in as well, as vicious as the very depths of the gorge. Mosaic Canyon and the other canyons in the territory of this national park were formed during the Paleozoic era, when water covered the park. Over the years, the sediments with fossils were compressed, creating limestone and dolomite. Later, under the influence of pressure and heat, the stones were transformed into marble that can be seen today in the canyon. Millions of years ago, a set of faults were created here. Water that has been running through these cracks carved the canyon. The results of this process we observe today. The name Mosaic Canyon came from the Mosaic Breccia rock formation. It's an Italian word, breccia, meaning fragments. And it's really true because rock formations of the canyon are composed of different parent rocks. Scientists say the most common rock formation is the Noonday Dolomite, which is rich in magnesium. My journey through the mysterious Death Valley came to an end. Unfortunately, I was not able to explore all the famous attractions of this place because of road damage due to floods. But for the same reason, I was fortunate to see the millions of blooming wildflowers, to be present at the feast of life in a place where survival is very difficult. Death Valley National Park. I would have called it the monument of life, the desire to survive as plants and animals do, the inhabitants of the valley and the people whose lives intertwine with this valley. I highly recommend a visit to this place to anyone who is ready to challenge themselves and nature, to romantics and simple nature lovers. After all, Death Valley is rich in spectacular and unique landscapes that expand our spiritual world, helping us to understand that we are closely bonded with nature by the invisible hand of the Creator.